Guys, this is Nick. In the name of the FC Schalke Mafia team, I want to congratulate you on your 100th episode. Thanks for supporting us in the US, and hopefully there will be many more episodes of your podcast in the future. Glück auf!
Running out to the top. Ball still in play. Oh, what a goal! What a magnificent, absolutely stupendous strike from Kevin Kharman. Moravec through to Raul. Lovely chip by Raul. 4-1 Schalke.
Blau und weiß ein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute, wie geht's? Willkommen zum das einzige Schalke Podcast auf Englisch. That's right folks, officially the world's only English Schalke podcast worldwide. This is episode 101 of SchalkeMerica, and I'm your host, Richard Kharman. This pod aims to bring you the latest from the Royal Blues, talk to the English-speaking fans of the club, get their point of view across, and bring you game highlights. Joining me as always on the show is co-host Jack Mangan. How are we doing this evening, Jack?
Doing pretty well, Richard. First match under our new manager, and it went about, I think, as well as we all expected, given the limited...
As well as you and I expected, at least.
For sure. Given the limited preparation time, and then, also the opponent, because it's the second time in 3 matches that we've played an opponent that's, had advanced very deep into the Champions League within the past, couple months. So kind of figured it was going to go this way. And luckily now we have an international break and a little bit of time to hopefully have Manuel Baum get his ideas into the squad, calm everything down, reorganize, and be ready to attack the rest of the calendar.
Yeah, I don't think that break could have came any quicker. First of all, greetings from Paul, who's visiting from Florida, or joining us from Florida, I should say. That the game went about as well as we expected. We kind of talked about this. I mean, with 2 days, notice for Baum, it wasn't much he was going to do in this game. The best thing he could do was try to get the guys organized or pumped up as best he could. We'll get into that game, but today is transfer deadline day. Lots of moves happened around. Schalke were a little active there for the last day. Much more than we expected, I guess. So deadline day moves that Schalke have made. First off, our good friend Sebastian Rudy, he joins Hoffenheim on a loan. And then the second bit of news is Kilian Ludwig we got him from Barnsley by way of RB Salzburg, loan with no option to buy. I wanted to start first about Sebastian Rudy because this deal kind of irked me, and I wonder how you feel. And I'm reading this from Schalke Daily. It says Schalke are covering 50% of Sebastian Rudy's $6 million salary. So that's $3 million they're paying for on the loan to Hoffenheim. The player is going to give up his $3 million salary, and then Hoffenheim are only going to pay the minimum wage just for insurance reasons. And this is coming from Bild. That's a terrible deal, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that deal? Because basically Hoffenheim is getting a free player.
Yeah, so real quick, if you're listening to this and you don't already follow Schalke Daily, I believe it's at SO4 Daily, yes. Definitely go ahead and do that. It's basically, they just aggregate all of the Schalke news of the day, so you don't have to go hunting it down on the individual sources. But anyway, it's very helpful, so definitely go follow that account. The details of the loan move, I think, are frustrating a lot of people because a lot of times when you're loaning a player out, part of it is designed to get some relief from the salary, and that usually comes in the form of the club that you're loaning the player to taking on the responsibility for a portion of it. This loan move is ultimately saving us $3 million, which you can't sneeze at, but at the same time, Hoffenheim is getting Sebastian Rudy and his services essentially for free, and we're the only people paying a portion of his salary, so we're paying him to go play somewhere else, and I think our stance on Sebastian Rudy on this podcast is fairly well established. We're not huge fans of him. It's pretty obvious that he has no interest in being at Schalke either. And to me, I can't really blame him for that. And so if that's kind of how he feels, and certainly the fans aren't exactly warm towards him either, I think it's perfectly fine that he goes somewhere else, because probably not the kind of guy we're going to need in the trenches for what's going to be a difficult season anyway. So I'm not really sad to see him go, but yeah, the details of the move itself are a little bit frustrating.
And I think the most frustrating part for me is we're a team that's strapped for cash. We don't have much money. We're already so much in debt, and we're still going to pay a player to leave. And like you said, you brought up some great points about why he needed to go and why he's not a right back. We've been playing him at a right back, and he's not the answer. He's been getting torched for the first 2-3 games. So yeah, he's gone. We knew from the get-go, whether he left or not, that we needed a right back. He was not going to be the answer. Obviously, with the departure of John Joe Kenny this summer, obviously with the loan going back to Everton, first place Everton, I should say. He's not playing, unfortunately.
Well, he might be. I believe Coleman just hurt himself this past weekend, so maybe it's smart of Everton to have held on to him. He might be sliding into the starting lineup sooner than we think.
Oh, all right. We'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, we needed a right back. Obviously, Rudy was never going to be the answer for that. Some people talked about bringing in Alessandro Schopf in that role. He's played that role in the past, but he's really more of a winger or an attacker, not someone ideal for that position. So Schalke did actually go out and get a right back, an actual right back. Kilian Ludwig, he's currently playing at Barnsley, so we get him on a loan with no option to buy. He's actually coming from Red Bull Salzburg, so we get a young player. I don't know too much about him myself. I got to look into him and see really what he can bring to the team. But I mean, fact of the matter, he's a right back, an actual right back, so that's a step up for us in so many ways.
Yeah, real quickly, just because you mentioned Shop, just in the interest of full disclosure and honesty, I was one of those people who have in the past suggested that we potentially try him out there.
Yep.
At least I may have said it a couple podcasts ago.
You did.
In place of Sebastian Rudy, just because the thinking would be, Schupp can expend a little bit more energy and can cover a little bit more ground and could just run around and be a nuisance on that side. Obviously, Sebastian Rudy adds a couple more things going forward. And in possession than Schupp would have, but I at least wanted to try him out there and see if he could do a job. We'll get into it more in a minute, but the answer to that question appears to be no after the Leipzig game. So I was wrong about that, but we finally, for the first time in the transfer window, just as it's closing, officially bring in a right back. But it's difficult to know how excited to be about that, given that it's essentially it's a kid that we're bringing in. It's not really an established player. I would be
20
lying.
years old.
Yeah, I would be lying if I told you that I had any sort of informed opinion on Kilian. I don't. I'm going to spend some time doing that, hopefully over the international break here and taking a look at him. But what I can say, at least from what I read, is just that it's a player that Manuel Baum is familiar with through his time with the German youth national team setup. Mm-hmm. So apparently the player is familiar with him. He's familiar with the player. Clearly a guy, Manuel Baum comes into Schalke, realizes that there's a serious right back issue and, has a player in mind that he can maybe slot in there that would be pretty easy to get. Because, it's definitely not a bad opportunity for this kid. I mean, we talk about Schalke potentially being dangerous to some people's careers, but, if he's going to slot into a Bundesliga fight and figure to get a lot of minutes, if he's going to end up being our starting right back, could be a good move for him. So at least we have somebody. We finally signed somebody. We're still thin there, and we would need more reinforcements. But it could be like the Timo Becker, Kilian Ludwig show.
Yeah,
the rest of the season, we'll see how it goes.
And many have suggested that that's would maybe be the 1-2 combo there at right back. We know that Manuel Baum likes the youngsters. He obviously has familiarity with the D-Mannschaft, U18s and U20s. So he's naturally going to, be inclined to have more players, younger players play. With that, we obviously knew that Katuchu was going to be staying at Schalke, which is great. Haven't heard any moves as of this podcast that he's been moved to Sassuolo. Two other names that were floating around lately. One is Ozan Kabak, and two was Robbie Matando. For Kabak had been the one for the last 2 weeks, pretty much. There was a Liverpool site that tried to get us to retweet that. I'm like, we're not going to retweet that. Do you have credible sources? And the sources were not credible, so we're like, we're not going to retweet that kind of stuff. And it never panned out. Liverpool were never really in a fight with that. But a couple teams had surfaced that potential moves that he could have gone there. But Schalke, had remained adamant that they were not going to sell him. Though I did see a floating price of 25 million euros, which is way below average. I mean, I think at least I was expecting something like 50 million euros be the asking price. And I get that you're not in the position to make the prices, but he's going to be one of your long time starters. You got to put a big price tag on him. But luckily, as of this podcast, he is not going anywhere. Another name that popped up was Robbie Matando. They thought, to bring in a right back, we had to sell somebody. And so they thought maybe Matando would be someone who would go to another Bundesliga club. As of this podcast, I said, nothing's materialized as of yet. So what about those two rumors or any other rumors that you may have heard of that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean the Kabak thing I wasn't a fan of either. I understand that when you're looking at because Schalke's trying to get money. There's only so many players on your squad at any one time that are desirable and could bring in a substantial enough sum that would justify getting rid of them. And so we saw that earlier with McKennie going to Juventus. Ozan Kabak was another guy who had been mentioned earlier in the transfer window. Nothing really happened. It seemed like some of those rumors picked up steam as we approached the deadline here. But yeah, I mean, we talked about how frustrated we were with Kabak's display last week. But ultimately still one of the more talented players in the team, and somebody who figures to be an important part of the squad for the rest of the season, especially given that some of his partners back there, like Nastasic and Ceane are pretty, and even Stambouli as well, are fairly injury prone.
Yeah,
and seemed one of them, at least, if not multiple of them, seem to be in and out of the lineup like all the time. So we definitely need the depth at a minimum, to say nothing of the talent. So I'm glad that we've held on to him for the time being. As far as Robbie Matano goes, I feel bad for him to some extent because, and I think you and I said this at the time, we thought it was a really ill-advised transfer when Schalke did it. It was a desperation Winterpause signing for Tedesco when things had started to go poorly, and we spent, what was it, like 13 million or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, on
a teenager from Man City's youth academy who hadn't played like any senior minutes. Like that's such a large sum of money to spend to really, which at that age is a totally unknown quantity. And then he comes into a Schalke side who, under the previous couple managers, haven't really often played with wingers, and that's kind of mostly what he is. So he's been asked to kind of, I think, try to fit into some roles that maybe he wouldn't be ideally suited for, and it's just been tough sledding for him. So I mean, I think if we sold him, we wouldn't really be missing much, just because I don't really think he's made that big of an impact on the squad, and that's not even entirely his fault in my opinion. But certainly a player who's still pretty raw and not the finished article yet. And if we could have gotten a decent sum for him, I wouldn't have been opposed to letting him move on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree about all of that, and we're gonna be watching the deadlines here. I got all my phones here just in case something pops up here.
You're playing Pokemon Go. That's what you're doing.
That's right, David. Don't tell anybody, Jack. No, but yeah, it's interesting. I try not to give into so much of these rumors, especially the Kabak ones. But I did come up and I did defend our man, because a lot of the teams that were linked with Kabak kept saying, well, they're getting rid of him because he's a case, he's an issue. He's not that really good. And I was like, whoa, hold up. First off, this is the first incident he's had. Yes, he has a temper issue every now and then, but he's pretty level-headed throughout. This was an ugly scene, no doubt about it. Anytime you spit on somebody, especially in these times, it's never a good look at all. But overall, he's been one of our better players of the last couple of seasons. He's reliable. He's good defensively, offensively, can pass the ball. I mean, I was defending this kid left and right, and all these people who made these claims that they knew about him never watched a single match of Kabak. If a Schalke fan was saying this kind of stuff, okay, they at least have watched him and can have a really good idea. But as people had never seen him, or maybe seen one clip or saw the spitting incident and said, yeah, this guy sucks. That pisses me off too. And that's what I hate about the whole transfer deadline stuff anyway. Anyway, let's get off of this. I mean, deadline day, that's pretty much all we really did. As you mentioned, the international break came at just the right time, I think, because we are reeling. Obviously, this is a 5-game gauntlet that was never going to end well for us. We knew that. We knew we're playing Bayern, who won the Champions League, playing RB Leipzig, who came in, who was a semi-finalist in the Champions League. Two really good teams, plus Dortmund, who's got the firepower with Haaland already scoring 1 million goals. That was always going to be difficult. Plus, you got to play Union, and you got to play Werder in the middle of that. It was never going to be good for no matter who the manager was. And so to judge Manuel Baum based on those 2 days of coaching, I think it'd be a little bit of unfair. We were saying how you need to give him some time, and I think this international break will do him well. Let's get right into that Leipzig game. I keep wanting to say Salzburg now. That game wasn't pretty. It started out fairly well, I think, Jack. I think probably the first 20 minutes or so, we were very disciplined. He came out how like we thought he would, because given Manuel Baum's experience previously in managerial with Augsburg, how we thought he was going to be very defensive minded. He used 5 defenders at times with the wing backs helping back. So the first 20 minutes we were pretty disciplined, nothing too crazy, but you could see something was brewing. and all of a sudden Leipzig just continue to pour it on, and they look far superior to us, winning 4-0. Not a pretty game at all. Again, once that first goal went in, it seems like our heads dropped. The Baum and Naldo and the coaching staff really have their work cut out for them in the international break. And not to mention Serdar got hurt. That's number one. That was scary to see him come off the pitch. So obviously we rushed him to come on too soon. Maybe he was trying to come on just so he can get back into the man chef. I don't know. It wasn't good to see that. And then we saw with a poor performance, something had to happen. A move did happen at halftime. Frederic Renaud, the keeper we just brought in from Frankfurt, was in between the sticks. At the time, and I don't know how you felt, at the time I thought it was just a move. They wanted to shake things up on the pitch. I mean, after the fact, we heard the real fact. But what was your thoughts of that?
Yeah, it took several minutes after the second half had kicked off before we heard Phil Bonney on the call mention that they were receiving information that suggested that Fairman had picked up a knock or something had happened, and so it was a fitness issue rather than any sort of strategic or game decision. I thought Rano in general looked fine, pretty up for it. Seemed sharp, seemed lively.
Big saves.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like blown away, but he looked like he belonged there for sure. So that always makes you confident to know that assuming Fairman continues to be the starting goalkeeper, if he were to go down with injury again, or if this particular injury keeps him out for any significant period of time, the small sample size first impression of Rana was pretty good. As far as the Serdar injury, I mean, the guy just can't stay on the pitch, man. I feel terrible for him. It was a hamstring injury, I believe, right? A soft tissue thing.
Yep.
He was going into a challenge, kind of extended, and seemed like he aggravated it. So, and he could be out for a bit now. We talk about Suat Serdar being, or guys like Harit and Serdar being, really good players who can help us, and we didn't have them down the stretch last season. Harit's been out because of a positive COVID test, and now we lose Serdar again. So, I mean, we can talk about the talent that's in the squad, but if these guys aren't healthy, we don't really have them. So it's unfortunate. But in general, I mean, the game went pretty much how I figured it would. Leipzig is a good team. I expected them to score some goals. I was pleased that we actually managed to keep them out for the first 30 minutes of that game or so. And despite having very little possession, I don't think Leipzig really had too many serious clear-cut chances in that first half an hour either. So it wasn't a terrible performance. It was just, we couldn't get any sort of rhythm going in possession. Rarely had the ball in the opposition final third, and that was, I think, the more concerning thing for me. And then it was just a 15-minute period before the end of the first half where we really kind of collapsed and allowed several goals, and they started gaining some momentum and started playing some really silky stuff. Schupf, not particularly good. And unfortunately, he was partnered next to Stambouli, which is probably not the center back you would have wanted on that side, I guess. But Angelino, who maybe I'm just an idiot and I didn't realize this in the past. I always thought he was more of a left back, and he was playing like left wing in this game. At least
he is the back. He is the back.
Yeah, because Olstenberg was playing left back, but Angelino was high for a decent portion of the match. At one point, he switched with Olstenberg, but he was up high and he kept making these runs off the shoulder, to the back post. And I think the first time he made that run was like the 5th minute. So it was really early, and then he did it a couple more times, and you could tell that no one was adjusting to it.
I tweeted out exactly when that 5th minute came, when the first time he did it. I was like, you better watch this guy. He's going to burn you, Schultz. And he did not learn from that.
And those kind of things for me aren't tactical. Maybe the initial setup is perhaps allowing for that to be a thing, and that can be a problem. But as a player, once you see that happen, once, twice, 3 times, it doesn't really matter, what the system is. You need to make note of that and say, hey, this keeps happening. Maybe I should mark this guy or make sure that somebody's following this guy around. And it didn't happen. And that wasn't even the first goal that Leipzig scored. But ultimately, you let 5'6" Angelino, who's a left back, score a header on the back post, and it was a goal that was coming, and it had been coming for the better part of a half an hour. So, frustrating. And the Forsberg, the John Bozdogan own goal, which was the first goal. Forsberg slipped in behind in just acres of space. I mean, Stambouli and Schupf were bunched up together near the sideline, And so there's just like a ton of space for Forsberg to run in, and Chen Bosduan was not at fault for that own goal. That goal was going in.
Yeah, it's going in
if no one had touched it. And then I think it was Nkunku was there anyway to mop it up. So Bosduan he had to do what he tried to do. So not his fault at all. And
Danny Olmo and Forsberg were just destroying that midfield of Schalke. I mean, they just slicing Schalke apart, and I thought those two were just unstoppable in that game. And it was probably our fault. But there's both those players are good, really good players, but there's no way they should be getting the time like they did, because there's the times that Olmo was sitting at the top of the box and just sitting there. No one was really tackling him. He's just playing around with the ball and passing to whoever he wants. I'm like, what are you doing?
They caused a lot of problems because they set up in sort of like a general 4-2-3-1 shape, but Mukiele was playing as like a right winger. And so in possession, Leipzig was often in a back three of Halstenberg, Upamecano and Willie Orban. And so they at times they had like four guys across the top against our back line, which was causing problems with Olmo underneath that. And they had a lot of width and a lot of height in possession. And so they were able to do some intricate stuff around the box and cause us all sorts of problems. I'm surprised that they probably deserved a couple extra goals in the second half that they didn't get because they had plenty of chances. But basically what we're looking for now is just to see if Mammo Bomb can somehow, stop the bleeding and fix the defense first and foremost. I mean, the offense is a problem, but when you don't have any possession and when you're, holding on for dear life on the back line, I mean, that's not the primary concern. We need to stop shipping 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 goals a game, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Emmanuel Calderon says, I wish we would start playing with wingers because the midfield can't hold the ball. And it's kind of shocking that our midfield is doing such a bad job of holding the ball. It's like they're playing scared and just getting rid of it. He also says, we have quite a bit of habit of buying injury-prone players, it seems like. And I wonder if the theme is just the medical staff or just injury-prone players. I don't know what it is, but it's frustrating for sure. And hopefully with these 2-week break here, the international break, I should say, it'll give Baum and the coaching staff some time to find the get the guys' motivation back up, get them disciplined, try to get their heads back up, because what we've seen has been really poor. We're dead last in the table based on goal differential. We probably set another record again for most goals allowed through the first 3 weeks. So it's not pretty stuff at the moment. I mean, we very much look like a relegation team at present. So that's saying something, because Mainz looked terrible this past Friday against our next opponent. Oh, by the way, we get to play Union Berlin. One of my friends asked me before the game, he's like, "Oh, Mainz has a lot of good players. Should we expect a win?" I'm like, Union at home is good. They're good. And I don't know if we're at their home. I think they're at our home, aren't they? I can't remember where the game is at, but
I'm pretty sure this game is at Union.
Oh, if it's at Union, then that's a very difficult ask, because they got their fans back in that, and it's a very very hard place to play. And not only just for Mainz or Schalke, but also for the bigger clubs who have always.
No, you're right. It's at Schalke. Never mind.
Oh, well, still okay. Well, that's better. That's Schalke. A little bit better. That's a little bit better. They're okay on the road, but difficult match nonetheless, I think. And then obviously the derby is going to be right after that. So we need to take full advantage of this break. I don't know what if we have any internationals in our team that are going. I would assume not, the way we're playing. Rudy probably would have been the only one that I could thought of, but Kabak, but he's suspended, so we don't need him anyway.
Katuchu,
yeah, and we don't play him anyway. So, let's see.
Hurt, so yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so yeah, Jack. I don't know. It's the break came at the right time. I think we got to figure out something. I trust Baum's going to figure it out.
Not that we expect to be, competing to finish anywhere near the top of the table, but I guess the one spot of good news is that teams that we expect to be pretty dominant this season in Bayern and Dortmund have already dropped points and each lost games through the first 3, and they needed 4 goals from Lewandowski to avoid dropping points to Hertha Berlin this weekend too. Bayern did. So as bad as we were against them, the good news is there's been some other teams early on that look like they've been somewhat competitive. So, could be fool's gold this early in the season, but potentially some of these top teams, what if they came back to earth a little bit and were closer to, the middle of the table than perhaps they typically are. If we turn things around, maybe we get back in the mix. I'm not holding my breath for that, but Like you said, we have this opportunity for Manuel Baum to finally get acquainted with the side and work on some things without the pressure of games for a little bit here, and maybe we can come out the other end of it and turn things around.
Yeah, maybe. And I don't expect Augsburg, who are currently tied for first or in second place, Eintracht as well are up there. I don't expect those two teams to be in the Champions League mix all season long. Derek Ray, who we had on the show recently, picked Augsburg for finish last place. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, some of the big boys are still going to be there at the end of the season. But like you said, let's give the team a chance to regroup here during the international break and see what the guys can do. I fully expect the team to be a lot more disciplined. Giving up 3-4 goals a game, that can't happen anymore. And I don't think it'll continue. Hopefully, let's see. I don't know. We're not out there on the pitch, so it's hard to say.
I'm terrified that it will, though, just because that was sort of the hallmark of the collapse second half of the season under Wagner, and then also the collapse under Tedesco too. As we got to this point where suddenly we started conceding 3-4 goals a game. Yeah. And it was just once the first one went in, we couldn't stop it. So. And that's going to be a problem if we end up being close to a relegation battle. Goal difference could become a thing.
It is,
and our goal difference so far is what, like negative 14 or something like that. Yeah, 15 goals, 1 scored through 3. That's got to stop real quick.
Yeah, because Mainz is next closest to us. They're just above us, and they're -9. So we got 5 goals plus on them. So. It's not a pretty thing, and I think like you said, we're not going to have no delusions that we're going to finish in the top half of the table or anything like that, or in a Champions League or Europa League spot. But we want to make sure we're out of that relegation zone and play good defensively. And I think Stefan Freund, who was also on the call this past weekend, mentioned that hey, baby steps. First step is being disciplined defensively, making sure that you're not giving up any goals. Then you can worry about the offense, because they're talking about commenting about no shots for Schalke through the first 20 minutes or whatever it was. And Stefan was like, well, at least they're not giving up any goals at this point, which is that's the first step, I think, because you continue to ship in goals like you do. When it does come crunch time and you are maybe in a goal differential battle, you're going to lose that easily at the moment. And we are playing pretty poorly at the moment. So. Not pretty. So we got to figure it out. We have to. It's bottom line.
A couple of things I wanted to talk about just the lineup going forward. A couple of things to notice from the Leipzig game. Yeah. First of all, now that we have a 3-game sample size, Stambouli not good enough, man.
I know. I love the guy, but
he's not good enough.
No.
I mean, he's. I don't know. I mean. We saw him in a back 3 this time, because previously we had seen him in a back 2, and we said, hey, maybe if we throw another center back, does that change things? I don't think it changed a whole lot.
And he played the right side too of that 3, so that's good, because you want Sané in the middle. But
the other thing is the argument that's always made for Stambouli is that he's supposedly this great passing center back. I thought his passing, his distribution was atrocious in this game. Yeah. Had a number of just sort of like weird, awkward long balls and clearances, like none of which came off. So he wasn't even doing that and really helping us build out of the back. I mean, that would be one thing in his favor, but if he's not even doing that, I don't really see what value he brings, because he's just a step behind it in terms of his pace constantly. And there comes a point where it doesn't really matter how well you read the game. You have to have some minimum ability to stay with people. He just been lacking that so far. So I know that we have issues with injuries and stuff back there and suspensions now with Kabak, but I can't stand Stambouli in the starting lineup much longer. I've seen 3 games and kind of had enough of it. So maybe you work him back into the midfield. I doubt that, because we have a decent number of midfield players. But how do you feel about Stambouli?
Yeah, he has become a liability, at least at the moment. Maybe it's just because his confidence is, and maybe that's why he's playing so poorly. But it's playing pretty bad. His passing, which was one thing that you could fall back on, is not there at the moment. And I think the combination of him and Schoff on the right-hand side, we're just getting torched all game long. And every other team's going to see that now and try to exploit that if they're back out there together. And now I'm wondering, where does Baum go from here? Does he go with that same what he tried to do this time, where it was 3 guys at the back with plus 2 wingers, technically 5? Who's going to be that third center back? I mean, if you do that, Kabak is out for at least 3 more games. So is Stamouli's going to play? No, you might as well go back to the back 4 at that point. And you can't.
Becker maybe, but yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that's true. You definitely can't put the 20-year-old that we just got, Ludwig, in that position, because he's right back. Just play back 4 with Sané and Nastasic, and put Ludwig on the right hand side there, and then in the midfield's got to figure it out too. They need to hold the ball. Mascarell, Bentaleb, those guys were just letting people walk through them. They need to stop that. They need to be a little bit more tough in that midfield there, and Bentaleb, I had a lot of hopes for him, hoping that he could at least spark something, especially with, the absence of Serdar and some other key guys, Harit. He hasn't done much yet. He's been very, very quiet. I mean, he's been turning it over a lot. Ochipko is going to be Ochipko.
He can't hold possession for more than 10 seconds at a time.
No, he can't.
It seems like. I mean, it's somebody, I forgot who said this on Twitter, so I apologize. I would like to credit it. But one of the things somebody said was something to the effect of, I mean, this is the natural conclusion of successive managers who don't put an emphasis on possession as sort of the main point of play. You have people that are focused on the long balls, dumping them in, or various counterattacking. I mean, so it's unrealistic to expect the team to just be able to do that suddenly when they haven't really been asked to do that as much the past couple of years. But it's tough to watch out there for sure. I don't think Bentaleb has added a whole lot so far. Paciencia, I thought, was terrible in this game.
He was.
He was a black hole out there. Whenever the ball came to him, it didn't leave. It was the end of the possession.
And I think that's why we saw Ibisevic come in at halftime also, as opposed to for Paciencia there.
So that was frustrating to see too. And once again, I know it's a difficult opponent, and you can't really ask the strikers to do anything when the team can't maintain possession anyway. Like, they're definitely not going to be able to. I mean, Mark Oot, you can't even judge him right now.
No.
Part of the way through the second half, we dropped into a 5-4-1 defensive shape with Mark Oot playing wide left. Yeah. I mean, this is not what he came here to do. But yeah, I just thought Paciencia in possession was pretty terrible and lost the ball a lot and seemed incapable of linking up, and that was disappointing to see from somebody that we brought in to potentially help us. So a lot of question marks right now.
Emmanuel is saying that Bentaleb is the same style player as Mascarell, and sometimes they do play a lot. Bentaleb has far more upside in terms of attacking skills than Mascarell has. I think they both can play that defensive midfield role for sure. I think Mascarell is probably a little more polished defensively than Bentaleb is. I mean, at present, you might have to play both of them if you're going to do a 4-2-3-1, play them both there in the pivot. Because who else are you going to put there? Maybe Schoff next to Mascarell. I don't know, but either way, they need some.
I don't want to see. We saw that a couple of times with David Wagner. I don't want to see Schoff like in a midfield position like that. I prefer him like wide where he can run because I don't think his.
I think Bozdogan played a little higher than he should. I think he probably would be good in that pivot. Bozdogan. Play some of the youngsters. I mean, at this point, if Bentaleb's not doing the job, bring in Bujala, go into that, the Kanapenschmiede and find some of these youngsters. Play freaking Katucha. They kept talking about in the game, and I know we keep breathing this down people's necks, but they kept saying Schalke needs someone who's going to come in the game with energy, change the pace to be an X factor, and we only have one guy at the moment who can probably do that. Harit too, both those guys, and Harit wasn't going to come in because obviously he had tested positive for COVID, so. Katucha was on the bench. At least bring him on for a couple minutes to see if he can do something. But either way, they need to figure out something quick because, like you said, you need possession to do anything. And just playing these long balls or turning it over is not going to get you anywhere.
I wouldn't mind taking a look at Hamza Mendil either.
Yeah, why not? Why not at this point?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was a little bit critical, not critical of him coming back. I'm fine with him coming back, but I was one of the people that wasn't excited about it. And based on his previous performances for us. But, I think at the moment, and it's not a knock on Bastian Ochipka because I don't think he's played particularly poorly or anything, but you know exactly what Ochipka is going to give you. And he's a very steady hand, middle of the road, not particularly strong in sort of any area of the pitch, just sort of an all-around guy who'll put in a shift for you. And, at least with Mendel, there's the potential of, a turn of pace and the ability to maybe contribute something to the attack with an overlapping run and some balls in. So, I wouldn't mind just taking a look at him and also just because we know Ochipka with his age and the number of games he typically plays, it wouldn't be bad to protect him and try to get him some rotation as well.
We haven't seen any of Benito Raman this year, I don't think yet. And so he's another player that has a little bit of pace, has some skill set to him that and some goal scoring potential in him. So, another person I wouldn't mind seeing there. So, yeah, they got 2 weeks to figure it out. Whatever he's got to do, being Emmanuel Baum to figure it out, he's got to do it because this is not Schalke football at all. This is really hard to watch for everyone. I don't even care anymore about our rivals laughing at us. It's more about what we see on the pitch, and they're not giving that the coal miner mentality and the fight. They're missing that.
We're getting tweeted about by people that aren't even like Bundesliga viewers.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that, people are like so aware of how bad we are at the moment. We're becoming just kind of a joke in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like we said on the last podcast, we got to give Manuel Baum some time. I mean, if we get 5 games into this and it looks exactly the same, that's going to be concerning. But I didn't expect the Leipzig game to go well. Now we got a couple weeks. Hopefully we see a performance against Union Berlin when we come back that, maybe even if we don't get anything out of it in terms of points, we're not seeing the leaky defense that we're seeing, and we're seeing a more competitive game. That would be something I'd be fine with, because we were talking with David Wagner potentially going 0-5.
Yep.
I don't want that to happen, but I'm sort of prepared for that anyway. Yeah. So, and there's only so much Manuel Baum can do in a limited time, and he, who knows, maybe he won't do anything at all. We have to see. I mean, these players, it's become a habit, right?
Yeah.
Did David Wagner suddenly become a horrible coach over the winter break? We were in the Champions League, and then we went on a 16-game winless streak. Did David Wagner just suddenly forget how to coach?
No.
And not to say that he doesn't have responsibility for what happened, and didn't deserve to be let go, but like, I mean, the players need to take responsibility for this, and it's largely the same group of players that have done this a number of times now, in multiple seasons. So they got to look themselves in the mirror and figure this thing out, because what we're seeing out there at the moment is just it's not even football. It's atrocious.
Schalke Brazil is in the house, and our friend Thalos from Brazil says Bentaleb will fit a lot better playing as a 10. He doesn't fit the type of a central defensive midfielder for Bundesliga demands, at least. I agree with you. I think we really have to step up in this Union match, really show some fight in this game, because after that is the derby, and at present, the way we're playing at the moment, Dortmund are going to try to ship 6-7 goals past us, and they're more than capable of it. Especially the way Gio Reyna and Haaland are playing at the moment, and Sancho hasn't even played yet. They're gonna be thirsty if they keep seeing the same Schalke play against Union, because we need to get ready for that. I mean, more than anything else, we need to show up for the next 2 games at least, if nothing else. So I don't know. I mean, and you guys in the chat, if you got any ideas, please let us know. If you got any questions, let us know, because I know we're at a loss for words about what we've seen over the first 3 games, and really over the last 9 months, honestly, since that Gladbach match. It's just been 2020, man. I don't know. I don't know what else to say, man. So
been very tough. I don't think there's a whole lot more for us to say. I mean, the deadline activity for us wasn't, significant in terms of volume. Just the the 2 moves that we already talked about, and then a game where I don't think it's really worth it to analyze it much more, just because hopefully we expect to see some better stuff soon. I mean, Manuel Baum was in charge for 2 days or whatever it was, against a good opponent. So
yeah. And I think Emmanuel in the chat brought up a good point, that there are no leaders left, because every season it seems like we sell them or something like that. And I think that's why it's so important we brought back Naldo, because he is so highly respected. The guys who listen to him, some of those guys played with him a couple seasons ago. So that was such a big move. And let's see what these next 2 weeks can really do, because those first 2 days were not fair enough to be judging the manager or the coach and the assistant coach there on that. So yeah, let's see. It's not much to talk about. Like you said, the deadline day was a couple moves only. At least we got it right back now officially, as opposed to Rudy, and Rudy's gone. We kept Kabak as of right now, so that's great news. Let's go from there. Tough game that we had just last pass, and now we got to play Union Berlin after the international break. So we got a couple weeks. We're gonna regroup. Hopefully the club regroups, and then our next match against Union Berlin, let's hopefully bring it and show some more passion. So. I think no point to really drag this one out, Jack. It's been tough the last 3 weeks, a much warranted international break. So, we'll be back sooner before the next game. I think we'll try to figure something out, especially if some deadlines happen overnight and we can talk about it or something. But yeah, thank you, Joe. Thank you, jokes. Thank you, folks. Dave Lee in the house. He says, SchalkeMerica, great live stream, guys. Thank you, sir.
What's up, Dave? Miss Dave. We haven't had Dave on in a while. We got to have Dave on at some point this season.
We do. Maybe. American Outlaw. There we go. Thank you all for watching the show. I know it's brief, but not much to say. So, we're going to end it on here. Keep tuning in each week as we bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. We want to thank Schalke, Ronan Murphy, Fabrizio Romano, Sport 1, and all the other hardworking journalists for providing us on our tidbits on transfer deadline day and every day, really. If there are any topics you would like us to discuss or any guests you would like us to have on, tweet us at SchalkeMerica. Jack, any special friends we should give a shout out to now that NBC4 Nashville left us hanging?
What if we were able to get an official NBC4 Nashville interview for the podcast, though?
Ah,
I mean, that could be a big time guest for us.
it could be big for them too.
Good for the culture. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll work on that during the international break. Jack,
Totally.
where can our followers find you on social media?
At JM Mangan, JMMangan on Twitter.
Very good. And you can find me at R_KHARMAN. Until the next pod comes, my friends, stay ready and we'll be with you soon. Tschüss.